What's up, everybody? It's Matt Schmidt here. I am standing in for my buddies Devin and Wyatt. We got Justin Cener on the line, and he's going to go over some things that are really cool today that we wanted to give you kind of a special inside look inside of their social ads classroom, their SAC. And it's really going to be special because it's something that is incredibly powerful, and not a lot of people have a lot of a process to, and that's flex targeting. If you guys don't know what flex targeting is, if you haven't used this to its full potential yet, this is going to be some very valuable information. Even like someone like me, like I'm constantly finding cool ways of adjusting flex targeting inside the Power Editor to get a better advantage or a new angle or something to drive more targeted people to my offer, whatever it is, my product or my Shopify course or whatever it is. I want to use flex targeting because you're cutting through all those likes by association. You're cutting through the mess that Facebook is aware of. If they weren't aware of it, they wouldn't give you flex targeting. They want you to use it. And we always want to be giving Big Blue what they want because then we get nicer returns. We're not trying to work the system. We're trying to do and use the things that are provided for us to make the most amount of money that we can. So, Justin, how's it going, man? I know it's bright and early there over in the beautiful side of the country. How's things going?
Things are going great, Matt. Thanks for having me, and super happy to share these little flex targeting tips with everyone. Flex targeting, as Matt said, a great a great introduction to it. I mean, it's super powerful, right? It just flat out works, and we're gonna show you exactly why. We'll talk about why it's so powerful, and then how you're going to be able to implement it with a pretty cool strategy to get you going right off the bat. So I'm very happy to be here. And yeah, Matt, let's kick it off.
Cool. So I've covered a couple things before and kind of what I like to do, and then we'll go over the shoulder, but let's just talk about flex targeting as a whole. I see there's two real things that I like to use it for, and that's taking one niche and then kind of working my way down in that niche using like a broad interest and a more precise interest, and then kind of just narrowing those people using the and statements. I've played around with, obviously you can do the nurse who drinks coffee and loves their pit bull. Sometimes that doesn't really give you that many people, but it is super powerful when you have two solid big interests to go after. I mean, and you see these shirts all the time for anybody listening to these calls. I mean, you always see the grandpa who's a gun-loving Marine or something like that. And that's what flex targeting really is using that and statement. There is some exclusions. I don't know if you play around with that. I see some value in that in a more of the like the political niche. I could see a lot of value in the exclusions. But that's really our main two uses of it right now are narrowing further down in a big niche or mixing the two niches. Is that pretty much what you're doing, or you got some other cool things that you got going on with
Yeah,
flex?
that's exactly right. And I think they're equally powerful. And that second example, when you're able to present a product like that, that grandpa who's a veteran who loves fishing or whatever. I mean, that's an unbelievable opportunity that you're only going to be able to get through flex targeting. And think about when people see that type of ad or that type of product. I mean, that speaks directly to them. They're not seeing shirts in the store saying that I'm a grandpa that likes fishing, that is a Marine or a veteran, right? I mean, these are opportunities to put some really, really, really unique products in front of people. And the really cool thing that you're going to get out of flex targeting, you're going to get ads where people are just going to literally shake their head and say, how do they know this about me, right? How do they know me so well? How do they know I'm a grandpa that likes fishing and that's a Marine? I mean, when you have people, kind of in amazement that you're talking directly to them, they're already in that buyer's mindset. So, not only do we get to have better audiences, but the effect of these audiences and the effect of the targeting really is, psychologically speaking, incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. We live in a great environment, and I talk to people about this a lot, and I'm sure you do as well. Like just as you said, you're trying to offer things to people that aren't available in Walmart. I tried to take that angle for a little bit, and that's just the example. Walmart, whatever store it is. I tried to take, we tried to sell this one item that it was very much available, but it's like the hottest selling item in the niche, but it's very much available just down the street, right? I mean, people said it was a reusable item. We were trying to sell it because we're like, that's the most selling product in the niche. And that's not the angle that we can operate in because, I mean, you could eventually do that, but what our advantage is is doing those unique things. And especially on Facebook, when you're driving traffic, you want to have that impulse. And that's what flex targeting really can help you do, like Justin was talking about, is you shock people because they saw a shirt that it touches them on so many levels. They're like, oh my God, I mean, it reminds me of the name shirts when you're like, holy shit, how did that happen? Obviously, we don't want to do those anymore. But you want, if you hit them on that level, it's the exact same the thing that Justin's talking about here. So that's really cool. And that is super powerful. And I'm sure you have, and I want to go over the shoulder here shortly for people. So we're going to walk through a couple of examples. So you okay for me to toss you the screen here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
So as Matt's passing it over, I want to kind of talk. I'm definitely going to go over the shoulder and show you, exactly how I do my intersecting, and we'll do a couple different examples. So let me just grab the screen right now. Okay, cool. So I think, so I'm sharing now. So before I kind of jump into the ads, right, I want to talk about this idea of a Venn diagram, right? I just want to talk conceptually for a second about why flex targeting or intersecting, whatever you want to call it, is so powerful, right? So think about just a very basic example. Let's say we want to combine two niches, right? So let's say this black circle on the left. Actually, no. Let's use an example, and this is probably going to be the first example we run through. And this is Matt's first of the two examples of doing flex targeting in terms of being able to narrow down an audience. And I'm going to show you a trick that I like to do to really give an unbelievably narrowed down, a very, very precise selection of not only of a niche, but of a subcategory within the niche. And I'll get to that in a second. But first, this idea of a Venn diagram. So, we're going to go back to third grade math for a second. And, this is something that I probably haven't seen in 20 years, and it's crazy that it's even relevant now, but it truly is. And this is a great visual example of what we're going to be talking about. So let's say you have one interest is this left black circle, and then your second interest is this right black circle. Let's say they're each a million in size, right? And I like working with the most precise, narrowed down audiences, especially, when you want to test a new ad or test a new niche. You want to be going in with, in my opinion, the best of the audience. So you want to have, sure, it's great to have, a million people in this interest, a million people in that interest, but what about this red oval in the middle, right? This is the intersection of both audiences, right? So just in this simple example, interest one, interest two, we could, a basic Facebook ad would say, we're going to show it to the 2 million people that make up, either audience one or two. But what's way more powerful is, let's say there's 100,000 people in this red audience. Now this 100,000 people in this red circle, they like both of these interests inside the niche. And the way I'm going to describe it, the example I'm going to show first, not only are they going to like two things in the same niche, they're going to like two of the same subcategory of the same niche. So, this kind of goes along with my strategy inside of Social Ads Classroom about interest groups, right? You want to organize the way that you target your niche. You want to be as organized as possible, and the best way to organize, in my opinion, is to organize in subcategories, otherwise known as interest groups. And some examples of those might be brands or stores or websites or magazines, celebrities, things like that. That's, that would be the basis of these intersects. So you could imagine, and in fact, this will be the first example that we do. Let's say you're doing the dog niche, and you want to go and build your interest group for dog magazines. If you have an intersection of multiple magazines, that subsection right here, the intersect of all those things, that's going to be people who like multiple dog magazines. That's incredibly powerful, right? You want to target people inside the dog niche, you'll go and target people who like magazines. But how about people who like multiple magazines? All right, let's use another example like sports is an easy one to understand, right? Let's say you like Sports Illustrated and ESPN the magazine and the Sporting News, right? You like 3 different sports magazines. You're probably a really, really good, well, not probably, you're definitely a really good representation of the sports magazine subcategory inside of the sports niche, or the dog magazine subcategory inside the dog niche. That's incredibly powerful. Yes, we're shrinking the audience size, but we're making it, 10 to 20 to 30 times more precise. So, that's enough conceptual speaking. Let's go right over the shoulder now. And you could do this in fact, you could do this in Ads Manager. You could do this in Power Editor. Really, whatever whatever you prefer. I'm just going to grab this random URL because I'm just going to do a clicks to website ad real quick, and I'm just getting to the next screen, the targeting screen, just for the sake of an example, so I could show you how to do this, right? So you're not going to see this option actually until you enter in interests. So functionality-wise, what we're going to do is, and this is assuming that we already, have done our interest research, right? We already have a good idea about who we're going to target. And in this example, we're going to do dogs. More specifically, inside the dog niche, when I want to test a dog product, let's say a dog t-shirt, I want to test, and again, I talked about how I organize my tests into interest groups. I'm going to test one interest group. So let's test the dog magazine interest group. Now, what we're going to do to start off is maybe we don't know any dog magazines, and we could simply just do some very quick Googling, right? Whoops, dog magazine. I already kind of gave you a hint on what the first magazine is, modern dog magazine. I've done this a few times, but we're going to put this in, and what we're going to start to do is we're just going to seed the Facebook ad with some dog magazines. And for the sake of intersecting, I'm going to use both, both the precise and broad interest here. So if you're seeing uppercase, lowercase, that's okay. I want you to use both. And what I want you to do, and what I do every single time, is I'll simply add all of the dog magazines, and you see how easy it is to do because Facebook is giving us these great recommendations. I just want you to add all of the dog magazines. Now, Modern Dog Magazine is in here twice, right? And we're going to add it both times. So we're going to be adding, we're just going to go down the list, and in my opinion, it's very important to not skimp on this research. When you're building these things, when you're building your intersects, you want to have as many dog magazines in here as possible, because that's going to just give you the biggest potential to actually make these intersects. So Facebook calls it flex targeting, we call it intersecting. Facebook also now calls it narrowing your audience. They have this little button that popped up, and this button, you won't see this until you put interest in here. So don't freak out if it's not in here when you load it. All you need to do is add some interest in here, and then this button will pop up. But this is the magical button. So before we press this button, let's talk conceptually about what this ad is going to show. So right now, this ad is going to show it to people that are in the United States, right? 18 to 65 plus, and anyone who likes any one of these dog magazines. How many do we have here? Probably about maybe 10 to 15 dog magazines. So if you like any one of these magazines, you're going to get shown this ad. And in fact, it's a 2.6 million person audience. Now, when I'm getting started, and in fact, even when I'm scaling, I want to be using the most narrowed down audience. So to me, 2.6 million is a little bit too big. Sure. So, what we can do is either remove interests, which I don't see any reason to do that, or we could do the intersecting. So obviously, we're talking about intersecting here, we're going to do it. System-wise, step one is to add them all to the first box, right? And you can get crazy and do a lot of different combinations, but I'm going to show you, this is what, has been working for me since pretty much the start when they rolled out flex targeting in 2015. You're going to go over here and click narrow audience. And all of a sudden, a second box pops up. So right here, it's even telling you what's going on. Include people who match at least one of the following of this box, and must also match at least one of the following here. So how are we going to implement this intersect? Super simple. We're going to go back to our list up here, and we're going to find the largest one in size. So we're looking at 708,000, a million, 152, 200, 236. Just going to roll, hover your mouse over them real quick and see what the biggest one. And it's Dogs Today magazine at over 1 million. So, this is a very insanely powerful concept, but functionality-wise, super easy. All we're doing is finding the biggest one, and we're simply going to make a mental note of it, right? Dogs Today magazine, and we're going to exit out of this first box and move it into the second box, Dogs Today magazine. Okay, so now let's see where the audience goes down to, all the way down to 99,000, and I like to be right between 75 and 300,000. So in fact, this is a great example of an intersect. But let's talk conceptually again. Now, what does this ad show, or who is this ad going to show to? Remember, before it was going to show to anyone who liked any one of these 15 dog magazines, and there were 2.7 million of those people. Now we just applied one level of intersect. And sure, we shrunk our audience tremendously, right? But the quality of our audience went up significantly. In fact, it went up astronomically. By what we had before, we were going to show it to anyone who liked any one of these magazines. And you never know why anyone may be part of this interest. Sure, they probably like dogs, but maybe they answered for a contest. Maybe maybe their friend works there. Maybe they like the timeline image. Who knows? Sure. If we're targeting people who like dog magazines because we think that is a good representation or a good subcategory of the dog niche, then we want to target people who actually like dog magazines legitimately, right? They're not just liking the page on Facebook. We want people who are actually getting these in the mail, subscribers, legitimate people, right? So that those 2.7 million people, they might be good quality people, but these 99,000 people right here, they're very, very high quality. We're kind of already vetting these people. We're pre-qualifying them before we've even spent $1 on our ads, right? We cut down our audience by over 2.6 million. And that's totally cool, because what we did here is we took out all those people that may or may not be really good representations of the magazine interest group, and we are left with 99,000 people, about 100,000 people who like Dogs Today magazine and like at least one other dog magazine. So, you know, if you like 2 dog magazines, and you could even go further, you can go, in this case, we're not gonna be able to get to it because we want to stay at least over 75,000, but we could even do another interest, right? We could do another intersect. So I'll just add modern dog magazine just for example's sake, right? We already have it up here, but we're too small here, but you could add multiple intersects, and the more intersects, the better. So think about it, you know, in the example here, we have people that like at least 2 dog magazines. That's so much more relevant than people who just might randomly like 1. So this idea, this is just within one niche, right? This idea inside the niche, we're now pre-qualifying our customers, getting our audience sizes to be smaller, very precise, and this is going to be a great way to start our ad because we know these people are very great representations of the dog magazine. And one more thing about intersecting here, by having these intersected audiences, not only is this going to help you on this ad, it's going to help you on every ad moving forward where you do this audience. Let's say you get sales from this audience and it's 100,000 people, or even if you have an intersect of 300,000, it's still great. But the difference between that and a 2.7 million audience is when you go back next time and you create another ad, maybe for a different product using the same interest group, you can be pretty confident that person 1 all the way to person 99,000 is pretty similar, right? They like at least 2 dog magazines, as opposed to the other example, person 1 all the way to person 2.7 million, they're going to be very, very different. So you're never going to show the same people in the same order. So this builds tons of consistency into your business. If you're going to find success here with this ad, you're most likely going to find success again when you reuse this audience for other ads. Person number 1 all the way to the last person in your intersected audience is going to be very, very similar. So Matt, I'm not sure if you kind of do it similar to this way, but this has been, you know, the most powerful way for me to kind of organize the ways that I target inside of one niche.
Yeah, I mean, I think this process itself it's different than what I have, but I love it because you're basically leveraging the power and the audience size that comes with Dogs Today magazine. And then we're going to go after a handful of smaller ones or relatively smaller ones compared to the Dogs Today magazine and then say any of those. So yeah, it's 100,000 people. But yeah, like you said, they're going to be super, super targeted. And there's no better group of people to put your offer in front of, or your shirt or whatever it is, your dog toy, whatever it is, in front of these targeted people. And if it works for them, then you can start, you know, maybe increasing your audience size in a new ad or something like that, because you're going to be building up a lot of credibility with the product, pixel information, and ability for you to push the limit on that audience size a little bit more too when you're scaling out, which you talk about in this course as well. So that's super powerful. That's very cool, man. And you just basically told anybody that's listening to this exactly how to target inside the dog niche, which I know is a big pain in the butt for a lot of people, because it's so easy to get 2.6 million people, right? And that's the problem with some of the harder niches or even categories, because I would call the dog category, not necessarily the dog niche, because there's so many different types of dogs.
Sure.
It's so massive. It's like like a third of the United States or whatever that owns a dog, or even more. That you can just click one interest is 2.6 million people, or a million people. So that's awesome, and that's a perfect way for anybody who's been wondering how to go after their niche to really get a core set of people. I really dig that, man. That's really great.
Yeah, cool. And you kind of touched on something that I didn't even cover. So, 99,000 people. When you have a successful product, you'll be able to run through that pretty easily. And guess what? When you're done running through that, all you need to do is undo this intersect, and now you have, you've already tested the dog magazine interest. If it was working, then you could simply undo the intersect and now go after the 2.6 million people in another ad, right?
Perfect.
So you're not at all limiting your upside. You're just kind of organizing it in a means to where you can test. If you think that dog magazines are going to be a relevant way to test or present your product, why start here? Let's start with the most targeted audience. And there's, we're not signing a contract saying that we're going to intersect for the rest of our life, right? We can undo the intersect. Simple as that. You just saw me, I literally just took it out of that intersect box and put Dogs Today magazine back up here.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have our big 2.6 million audience again. So, I want to be very clear. This is not at all limiting your upside on any ad. I'm not suggesting that we're going to go with 99,000 and forget the rest. But if we're not going to find success to those 99,000, we're not going to find success to these 2.6 million.
Absolutely.
So it's simply, yep, we're just going to jump off on the right foot by going with the intersect.
I love it, dude. And that's a huge part of what you guys have to understand is that Justin lays out a process, and this is a piece of that process. And there's a before, the things leading up to this, and then the things leading after this. So if you see 99,000, you're like, oh, that's not a lot. Just listen to what he just said there, because it's all part of the process.
Yeah, Matt's exactly right, and these ideas completely carry over into the scaling processes as well, and those are legitimate business changers right there. So the system, all the pieces of the system work together. I guess that's what makes it a really cohesive, tried and true system, right? So there's before points, there's after points. They're all going to carry over in here, and you saw right here, I kind of just even teased a scaling technique, right? Once you scale through your audience, you just undo your intersect. So, there's a rhyme and reason for everything that we do. And, this is a business, right? While, it's definitely a fun lifestyle business, you still need to treat it absolutely like a business. You need to have systems, you need to have plans, you need to have processes in place that work hand in hand with each other. And, this is just, as Matt said, one piece of that, but a very, very, very powerful piece. So, Matt, how about I'll do another example maybe of cross niche ones. How's that?
Absolutely. CrossFit is another mega one that people would be happy to understand.
Cool. Yeah. And we could even do something like, how about something like moms who do CrossFit, right? And
Yeah.
moms is a super powerful, I think moms would also kind of fall into a category, maybe not necessarily a niche on its own, but when you combine moms with something else, for example, sports moms, something like that, right? That's an unbelievably powerful combination. So how about we go after moms that like CrossFit? So let's just build this example. We're going to X out of this dogs example here. And this is going to be a little bit different because on moms, it's really, it's, when they say keep it simple, stupid, I mean, you couldn't be any more simple than this, right? So inside demographics, and then inside, where is it? Home. Whoops, I'm sorry, parents. There, it's right there. Parents, if you want to target moms, well, Big Blue is literally shoving it down your throat. You want to target moms? Here you go. There's, we could literally just check off these boxes. And what we're building right now is an audience of moms. So our base, if we want to do anything, niche moms, blank moms, sports moms, tennis moms, golf moms, cat moms, dog moms, CrossFit moms, which we're going to do here, it couldn't be any simpler for you to start. Right now we have 33 million people as our base audience who are moms. And this is all information provided in the demographics section right inside here. Unbelievably powerful. And you could, when you combine this idea of, having a new base audience of some audience, and you could apply this to anything. It could be moms, it could be people who like dogs, it could be, people who like sports, it could be people that like sailing, it doesn't matter. Whatever your base audience is, you think of that now as your new starting point. So everything that's in this box, this first intersect box, is your new base. And now we're going to apply new interests, new targeting in a second box, in an intersected box, to now slice and dice this original audience. So instead of just starting with the 1.5 billion people on Facebook in general, we're now starting with 33 million moms. It's obviously still a gigantic number, but we've already kind of cut our audience down, so we already have some point of targeting. We already have a point psychologically to where the people who are going to be looking at this ad, let's say we're going to present the CrossFit t-shirt to them, like something that says, I'm a CrossFit mom or something like that. We already have, just in this first set of targeting that's incredibly easy to find, we've already narrowed that down. We already have them nodding their head, yes, I'm a mom, continue, right? So now we're going to continue on and give them another point. So we're going to say, okay, yes, I'm a mom, and now how about this? We're going to start doing CrossFit related, where is it at? I think it's capital in here for some reason. CrossFit.
There you go.
We're gonna layer on the CrossFit interest. So starting at 33 million here, let's see what we get down to just by adding the first CrossFit interest. So we're at 3.4 million in terms of 3.4 million moms who like CrossFit.
That's a
So
big
that's
niche.
a huge
Yeah.
niche, considering all we did was just the most basic targeting here, just the moms, and we're talking about huge, like tens of millions on these interest sizes. And then look at this interest, right? You find a 35 million person interest. When you use that alone, that's pretty much unusable, right? You can't, unless you're scaling deep into your campaigns where you have a big winner and now you just want to show it to as many people as possible, sure, then you're going to use this CrossFit audience. But at this point, when you're first going to test a new product, or you're first going to test a niche, or you're going to scale out to a different ad set and you want to try different targeting, it's very hard to use this audience. But in this case, these 35 million people, they've already been pre-qualified to only be the 3.4 million moms inside this audience. So, this is very hard to use this audience. But in this case, in the intersecting case, this is an incredibly powerful tool for us, because we want to be intersecting big audiences. We might not necessarily want to end up with big audiences, but the bigger the audience that we start with to intersect, the bigger or the more room that we're going to find when we kind of go and find our narrowed down audience. So this is a good opportunity for us to actually create a second intersect, a third box. So right now, conceptually, this ad is saying, I'm going to show it to anyone who is a mom and also likes CrossFit. So that's great. We know that CrossFit is just a massive niche, right? So how about CrossFit? Come back in here, and there's some other interests in here as well. So let's add some other, let's add CrossFit training, and let's see our number at 280,000, right? Maybe we even add, I think, CrossFit Games, right? CrossFit Games is a big one, and that's 2.2 million. So let's see, we're adding these two, and we're at 550,000. So conceptually wise, let's see now what this ad is saying. Now we're going to show it to moms who like CrossFit, but now we're actually combining both intersecting ideas. This one we're combining different niches, but we're also getting way further narrowed down inside the CrossFit niche. So this ad is saying, showing it to moms like CrossFit and also like CrossFit training or the CrossFit Games. So this goes back to that magazine example that we just did. Not only is it someone that falls into this massively huge CrossFit category, we've pre-qualified even the people inside of this CrossFit category with this interest box. This example right here is unbelievably powerful. Not only are they moms that like CrossFit, these are moms that really, really like CrossFit. They like at least they fall into two different interest groups for the CrossFit niche. So we have a super high level of confidence saying that these 550,000 people are very, 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 very solid, very solid representations of the mom's CrossFit niche.
Yeah, that's great. I really like using that. I think they call it third-party data or whatever. When people, and I know a lot of that mom stuff is so people understand how that is. I get the notification like how that information gets there. Like the Facebook's always asking me like, is Linda your mom, or is Zach your brother, and when they ask you for that kind of information, that's why they do that, so they can target you like this. So a lot of moms put their daughters as people on Facebook and identify them as daughters. That's where a lot of that information comes from. And then I think some of that is third-party behavior that Facebook brings in as well. And I know that data has gotten astronomically better over the last, I think they introduced it like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now. I remember when it first came out and it was terrible, and it's just gotten way better and better and better. And it's almost something if you can include it, I would say, if you can in that stuff as well, because it's super powerful, especially the moms thing. I remember when those mom shirts came out, and they didn't even have this data when that was happening, and they had to do it the hard way. But now it's like, here it is. Let me feed it to you. That's like what Facebook's saying. Let me give you the ultimate angle into the mom niche. So that's super powerful, man. And even if you wanted to, and the interest and the demographics. So you mess with the interest, but do you mess with demographics as well? Do you try to like target specifically? I mean, obviously in this instance, you're going to have you have male and female registered, but at the same time, you have moms clicked. So it's obviously going to just be women in that scenario. But do you do any with the age groups and the gender? Do you any angles that you use there to help people out as well when you're doing this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll give you a quick anecdote about why I will, and the only thing I will change here is, especially when I'm starting, I'll go to 20 years of age and up, just to make sure that they have credit cards. I'm not so sure about 18, 19-year-olds. And in this case, when we're targeting moms, it's doing a lot of the demographic kind of changes for us, obviously, because moms are a certain gender, right, and probably a certain age. But typically, I want to go into everything. I want to throw all assumptions out the window. And the best anecdote for that is literally $1 million example of a cat store that I have. And I thought that, my typical customer would be a 45-year-old single woman living alone, and lives in a house or whatever. And by the way, you could actually find all these types of things, like the ways that I was thinking about targeting. Those are all targetable things right inside the demographics section, right? You can talk about home ownership, composition, if they're single in terms of relationship status, stuff like that. Long story short, had I acted on this assumption that the 45-year-old single woman would be my best customer, I would have missed out on what turned out to be my majority customer, 18 to 35, and a slight majority of female. So I think that changing demographics is super powerful, but I only want you to do it when you have some very, very consistent data to say, okay, coming back in here, the only people that are wind up buying my product are 33 to 55 or something.
Right.
And if you have data that backs that up, sure, then I want you to implement those changes. But I don't like doing that until I have consistent data. I'm not talking about a couple of days. I'm talking about a couple of weeks of consistent data across different ads for those age ranges for me to go and make the breakdowns. But I think it's very, very valuable just in general to have the mindset that, you're going to let data make all the decisions for you. And, we all know what happens when you assume, right? It doesn't work out, to say it nicely. So let the data speak for itself. And when you see those data points, then of course you can make your demographic changes. But right here is where, in my opinion, all the magic is going to happen.
Yeah. And the cool thing is here, guys, because anybody has followed me for a little bit, Justin and I have a very or a slightly different approach when we talk about what we're just, he was covering right there. And that's perfectly okay, because I've always said there's multiple ways to sell a t-shirt. I think the saying is actually there's multiple ways to skin a cat, but Justin has a cat, so I don't want to bring up that. So I don't want to say that too much, but there's multiple ways to sell a t-shirt, and it's about following the step-by-step process that goes hand in hand with the single piece. So if you just look at that single piece, that's not going to be the full picture. You got to have to look at everything that comes before and everything that comes afterwards. And he's been following this, and obviously he's had a shitload of success, excuse my French, with that. And so that's an easy thing for you to look at, follow it, see if it gets you to, the goal that you're looking for, the next level in your campaign. And I'm sure it's going to, because he's got a lot of insightful things here for you. And it's going to help you out. And especially this flex targeting. I learned a couple things that I'm definitely going to go back. I'm actually probably going to send this video to my staff and say, hey, watch this on and learn from how to do flex targeting here. So I really appreciate you coming out on this call, man. I know it's a Saturday for people, so I don't want to take this to be too long, but we have two super powerful examples on how to use something that is incredibly powerful inside of, it's great that they brought it into Ads Manager. I was going to say Power Editor, but it's great that they brought it into Ads Manager too. So it's even easier for you to utilize this. And so you need to be taking action on this content here today. So I really appreciate it, Justin. Thank you for your time. I know Devin and Wyatt are thankful as well. And thank you very much, man. I don't want to keep you too long on your Saturday.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks so much. And hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of this. And, as Matt said, take action. This is super powerful for your targeting. So, you have a nice new arsenal for getting your targeting out to your ads.
Perfect, man. Appreciate it. Talk soon, guys.